Run a polka dot, something rock away, run a polka dot. Jane Gay, and she think nobody like she. Jane Gay, and she think nobody like she. Run a polka dot, something rock away, run a polka dot. Run a polka dot, something rock away, run a polka dot. Jane and Jane, and she rocks her body with high. Jane and Jane, and she rocks her body with high. Run a polka dot, something rock away, run a polka dot. Run a polka dot, something rock away, run a polka dot. Jane and Jane, and she walk up in the good style. Jane and Jane, and she walk up in the good style. Run a polka dot, something rock away, run a polka dot. Run a polka dot, something rock away, run a polka dot. Jane and Jane, and them village fire run wild. Jane and Jane, and them village fire run wild. Run a polka dot, something rock away, run a polka dot. Run a polka dot, something rock away. Jane and Jane, and she think nobody like she. Jane and Jane, and she think nobody like she. Run a polka dot, something rock away, run a polka dot. Run a polka dot, something rock away, run a polka dot. Jane and Jane, and she think nobody like she. Jane and Jane, and she think nobody like she. Run a polka dot, something rock away, run a polka dot. Run a polka dot, something rock away, run a polka dot. Jane and Jane, and she rocks her body with high. Jane and Jane, and she rocks her body with high. Run a polka dot, something rock away, run a polka dot. Run a polka dot, something rock away, run a polka dot. Jane and Jane, and she walk up in the good style. Jane and Jane, and she walk up in the good style. Run a polka dot, something rock away, run a polka dot. Run a polka dot, something rock away, run a polka dot. Jane and Jane, and them village fire run wild. Jane and Jane, and them village fire run wild. Run a polka dot, something rock away, run a polka dot. Run a polka dot, something rock away, run a polka dot. Jane and Jane, and she think nobody like she. Jane and Jane, and she think nobody like she. Run a polka dot, something rock away, run a polka dot. Run a polka dot, something rock away, run a polka dot. Jane and Jane, and she think nobody like she. Jane and Jane, and she think nobody like she. Run a polka dot, something rock away, run a polka dot.
So, this is attorney Shelley Washington, owner and founder of the Washington Law Firm, located at 455 Utica Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. We're specialized in medical malpractice, personal injuries, matrimonial law, and landlord and tenant. If you're in need of legal representation, please give us a call today. The number to call is 718-877-3100. Consultation is free at no cost to you. So call us today to see if we can be of any assistance to your legal needs. Again, the phone number to call us is 718-877-3100.
If you are looking to have your statutory declaration, affidavit of income, identity, damage or lost passport, lost license, tenancy agreement, agreement of settlement, power of attorney, last will and testament, and certification of documents, then you need to visit the Alistair Collins firm, located at the Killian Mall, 162 Lamaha Street in Georgetown, between Camp and Waterloo Street. Alistair Collins is a commissioner of oaths and a justice of the peace. Make certain you visit him or call for more information at 649-6410 or 685-6448 or 503-1451. And there's adequate parking available. Go down to the Alistair Collins firm and have all of your legal issues settled and brought to the fore. Alistair Collins firm. Contact them at Alistair Collins firm.
Well, a very pleasant good evening. Let's get straight down to business. Hope all is well with you. It's the 4th day of October. It's the 4th day of the 10th month, and 2 more months to go, and that's it. 2 more months to go, and that's it. So let's get straight down to business while you guys share the link and let other people join us. At least we can visibly see that they have joined us. But let's get straight down to business. This, again, is something that we showed you guys before. It is what we consider to be evidence that the police force they do have a copy of the recording of this press conference, this infamous press conference, as I would want to say, infamous press conference, and it was held not so long ago, conducted by the acting commissioner of police, Hicken, along with the crime chief, Blanham. They're saying that they don't have a copy of this video. I have a copy. In fact, I streamed this live. And the police force, I'm told, they also streamed it live on their page. And they discontinued it because folks were attacking them and their credibility, and rightly so. And so they do not, it is apparent that they do not want the public to hear all of the things that happened on that day. And it is apparent also that the director of public prosecution, some say persecution, they're at all costs to get the individual who happens to be the whistleblower. So you don't protect the whistleblower. You go after the whistleblower. You try to break the whistleblower down, discredit the whistleblower, because it is a widespread perception out there, mind you, perception that the DPP is protecting her powerful, quote unquote, and these people love that term because they think that they're powerful friends in society, and that is the Mohammeds. And so we here at 107.1 FM do not intend to sweep this under the rug. We are not going to ignore it. It is something that should not be ignored, and you cannot have, in terms of the allegations that are leveled against the police force, that they are protecting individuals out there because those individuals have some money in their pockets. And you know what happened to people people in general, who are not accustomed to monies in their pockets, and they get money in their pockets, and then they move all manner of things. We've been seeing it over the years with certain individuals who just get some money in their pockets. And so it is this widespread perception that the DPP is protecting the Mohammeds. And now why the Mohammeds? And their name, Azardine Mohammed's name keeps featuring. In this particular case, just let me remind you guys that it is alleged that he is connected to this murder case along with his security guard, Mark Richmond. And now the police force can just get to the bottom of this and let the public be comfortable that the police force is actually there to protect and serve, and when I say protect, not to protect the so-called individuals who have little monies in their pockets and they give a little computers and vehicles to, the Guyana police force, and they gave a little vehicle or vehicles, as we have heard, the allegations that Azardine Mohammed gave a couple of vehicles to Irfan Ali when Irfan Ali was installed, and even prior to Irfan being installed. And so the question is, are they protecting Azardine Mohammed from being questioned about the murder of Paper Shorts? According to this guy, Detective Sergeant Bascom, he has said, and he's alleging that there is a great deal of corruption and manipulation in this particular case. This particular case, all because of the individual, Azardine Mohammed. And now, what the DPP has done is an attempt to interfere with the judicial process. I wouldn't say corrupt the judicial process in this instance, but what she has done, in my opinion, is interfering with the judicial process so that this individual, Mr. Bascom, Detective Sergeant Bascom, can get a fair trial with all this judicial masquerading, especially on the part of the DPP, and also the investigations, the lack thereof, of the Guyana Police Force. It is evident that the target is Mr. Bascom. And they are trying to do everything judicially and otherwise to ensure that this man, Bascom, this cop, Bascom, doesn't get a fair trial. They're also ensuring that they do everything within their powers to shut other cops up who want to come forward. And there are many cops who want to come forward, who want to talk about the corruption, but they're watching. And the police force, as dumb as the leadership, those in the leadership bracket are, they're smart enough to know that if they penalize this guy, Bascom, if they punish him, if they squeeze him, if they charge him, if they send their cronies and their friends and their individuals, questionable backgrounds, who are basically running around as businessmen and women, if they send those individuals after them to Bascom, to sue Bascom, to do all manner of things, they feel that Bascom will crumble, and it will send that message to other policemen and women to shut up. And when they see wrongdoings, they should shut up. That is what this is about. But what is interesting, though, is the DPP and her actions, questionable actions in wanting to remove the magistrate daily. And mind you, the magistrate has been receiving, I'm told, death threats. And nobody's looking into that. So you have a magistrate that is sitting there doing her job, being criticized for doing her job, and this DPP wanting her to be removed, to be removed from in front of her. Now, there's a pattern with these folks. And I say these folks because every time these goons are in office, the PPP that is, they put their cronies in certain positions. And now I'm not saying that the DPP is one of the cronies of the PPP. I'm not saying that at all. But let actions of these individuals would do the speaking and the talking, and you guys are able to draw your own conclusions in this matter. So I don't want anybody to run to say that I say that the DPP is a crony or a creature of the PPP, PPP. Okay. Well, all right. Good evening to all of you if you're now joining. And so here we go now. Let's talk about this guy more. The DPP is not protecting Moore. The DPP doesn't give a rat's, about Moore. The bigger picture in all of this, and the perception again, we go back, is that the DPP is out to ensure that this guy, this is the target, this guy. The perception is she's protecting this guy, Azardine Mohammed. His family is said to be connected to her family. I don't know if it's by blood relation or just friendship. and the CIOG, which is the Central Islamic Organization of Guyana. Again, I'm saying it is wrong for anyone to be in a position, whether they're cronies of the PPP, whether they're creatures of the PPP, to use their constitutional offices for personal gains. Again, I'm not saying that this is the case, but if you watch and you try to put two and two together, you will want to ask the questions that I'm asking. And I'm merely asking these questions. Does the DPP have a personal interest in this particular case because of her alleged family connections to, not CIOG connections, family connections to the Mohammeds? And so it's her vested interest, within her vested interest, to ensure that Bascom becomes the culprit, and Bascom is the boogeyman, so to speak. And now let's get back to the DPP. Why the DPP? And why is the DPP targeting the magistrate? And let's deal with history here. The PPP has a history of targeting judges, whether by death threats or whatever, or other forms of sanctions, state sanctions. They have done that with many judges. They have done so to many magistrates. I'm going to give you guys a couple of names. They targeted Claudette Singh when she was a judge, when she was hearing, she was the trial judge in the elections petitions, the 1997 Esther Pereira petition. And Esther Pereira is a PNCR supporter from Sophia who suffered at the hands of the PPP, all because her name was on that petition. And not only did she suffer under the hands of the PPP, she was apparently ignored by the party that she was actually standing up and fighting for and putting her life on the line. I hope Esther is okay. I haven't seen her in years now, but I did have a nice conversation, or maybe not so nice conversation with her about how she felt about being treated by her words, party comrades. That's another story for another time. And so let's move back to this here. So Claudette Singh, after hearing the 1997 elections petitions, and in 2001, she ruled and she vitiated the elections. And so snap elections have to have been held. And in March of 2001, we had snap elections, 4+ years after the PPP was squatting in the office. They were squatting because and here is where I go back now to the elections, these two elections petitions. And hopefully Aubrey Norton and the other guys in the opposition can get off their rear ends and do some more agitation or do something other than press conferences and just blah, blah, blah in through some sort of letter. And some of them are on Facebook crying out and saying that people aren't going out to protest. If people aren't going out to protest, there are 30-something of you guys as MPs. Get the hell out in the streets and protest. That is what you guys are there for. Not to protest, but to stand up and represent the interest of the people. Don't twist it around and expect people to go out when you guys, majority of you guys in the opposition as MPs, are not going out. When majority of you guys who claim to support the PNCR, who claim to be members of the PNCR, who claim to be past national service folks and YSM folks and all these sort of things, when you guys don't go out. What about those people who were former ministers not so long ago? What about those who were in nice big positions? Why aren't they going out? You know, if they go out, there'll be over 300-400 of them out there. But they're not going out. But they expect little Savitri, who supports the PVP from Alexander, the PNC, or the coalition, to go out and protest, while these sweet boys and sweet girls in the opposition sit down in their cozy offices and watch on, and then dress up in a dandan and come on social media to talk nonsense most of the times about people not going out and they need boots on the ground. Put your goddamn boots on and hit the ground and watch the people follow you. You lead by examples. You don't want the easy way out to just talk, come on social media, chit chat, swing this way, swing that way, and come off social media and feel that that is representation of the people. No, it's not. And now this is about elections petitions, right? But I'm just bringing to your attention why these guys who are in the opposition, they're sleeping. They tell you that they're not sleeping. There's evidence that they are sleeping. They don't go out there. They don't work. They're a bunch of lazy members of parliament in the opposition. Most of them. Now, there are one and two who do their thing, and I give them 1 and 2 credit for that. But let's get back to the petition. If these guys in the opposition weren't sleeping, then the court would have taken seriously the urgency of the elections petitions to be heard. Now, this doesn't mean to say that the court should just move as a result of agitation, protest, and good trouble. No, the court ought to move with the dispensation of justice in a timely manner, not just elections petitions, but all other matters, as a matter of fact. But in the case of elections petitions, they're urgent matters that ought to be dealt with expeditiously. Nobody should be protesting the court for that. But when you see that the court is taking a political position, most of them in the judiciary have taken a political decision to stymie this process, to slow down the process by having the elections petitions heard in an expeditious manner. Now, let's get back to the 1997 elections petition that I mentioned, that the person who actually was the petitioner, Esther Pereira, how she was treated badly. Her life was threatened by the PPP. She was largely ignored by members of her own party. That's another story. Just imagine if that 1997 elections petition was heard in a timely manner within 6 months after it was brought. Imagine what would have happened. It didn't happen until 4+ years after. After Jack Dale, the PPP, they were squatting in office illegally. They were enjoying the benefits. They were doing all manner of things to people for 4.5 years. Then the ruling came down. Then the decision came out by Justice Claudette Singh, declaring the elections or vitiating the elections. In other words, tossing it aside. And so fresh elections had to have been held. And within 6 months or so, we had fresh elections in 2001, March 2001 in Guyana. But they squatted in office for 4+ years. The elections petition of 1997 was just a little minor, a drop of the bucket concerning what we are seeing now. The evidence is so overwhelming. All over as we watch statutory documents, ballot boxes, oaths of identification, every single thing, the evidence, look, part of the list is here. We are seeing, 61 dead voters, 4,000. Look at this. That's almost a seat. 4,864 absent voters. 150. Now, this is also important. 100. And I want to say this as slowly as possible. 150 stuffed ballot boxes. In other words, in PPP, mainly PPP stronghold areas, ballot boxes were stuffed. You take things and you push it in. That is not supposed to be there. Look at it. 47 ballot boxes without documents. 47 ballot boxes without documents. Look at the other. These things that I'm showing you, folks, this is not something that I made up. This is evidence. And this is here. 1,000 missing oaths of identity. 1,278. And now when you do the calculation, Let's do the calculations here. The PPP is in office. They've been installed. One seat. They have a one seat. But they have another small hustling party that calls themselves opposition. They're not opposition. That's where Schumann, who has gone quiet now, they're not an opposition party. They're an opportunist party. And so they are in there with that one seat for opportunistic reasons. And everything the PPP does, they stretch their tongues out. Those who have formed part of that opportunistic party, they stretch their tongues out and lick everything the PPP says and the PPP does. So they're not an opposition party. They're an extension of the PPP. So the PPP is in office with a slim majority, one seat. Now let's go back to this here, and I'll bring J.R. Crawford on. I think our operator has signaled to me that Mr. Crawford is ready. He has been ready, but I just wanted to explain this here quickly to you guys. Now, if we do all of the math, the correct math in this here, and tabulation, and let us assume, that some of these things are in PNC stronghold areas. Okay. 95% of this sort of corruption that we're seeing here are from PPP stronghold areas. And when we do the correct calculations, as a result of what they're claiming transpired with Mingo and stuff, forget about that. Mingo became the boogeyman. These guys are boogie people. There's no matter against them, no evidence. They're wasting these people's time. They're wasting the court's time. Everything they're wasting because they're persecuting these people so that they can cover up the truth. But let us say, for example, we put all of the evidence together. The coalition would have won the 2020 elections with nothing less than 5 seats because the people of Guyana were not ready to put the PPP back into office, especially with Jack Dale and especially with Irfan Ali. Now, Irfan Ali has a record, apart from his 19 fraud charges that were brought against him, allegations, 19 fraud charges. He has a dreadful history when he was the Minister of Housing, cussing people, chasing people, all manner of things, allegations, mind you. Right? So you get the elections petitions now. They don't want it to be heard. They're doing every single thing to stop it, to stymie the process, all because the evidence is quite clear. Again, all because the evidence is quite clear that the PPP has rigged. The PPP has rigged the elections. They have rigged the March 2020 elections. They have rigged the elections. Rigged. R-I-G-G-E-D. Rigged the elections. And they do not want the evidence to be brought out in court, all because the world will see. The world will see that the PPP has rigged its way into office. That is why I say that the opposition, they need to go out there, put their goddamn boots on. Stop complaining that people are not going out. People will go out when they see that you guys in the opposition are ready and prepared to fight and stand up for them. The people of Guyana do not need lazy politicians, and I'm speaking directly to the ones in the opposition. The people do not want lazy opposition members who want to play it fair and look balanced. Some of them, I don't even know who taught them politics. I don't even believe that they should have been in there. Maybe they should have put J.R. Crawford or his brother, Ryan Crawford. Or they could have gone to Alice Village and asked who was Churchill and Sedo and what's the other one, Junior? Leland. Those 3 guys, those who are from Alness side, they would know exactly what I'm talking about. Leland, Churchill, and Sedo. And they had another man in the village named Killer. They should have put all those guys as members of parliament. Then we would have had a different story today. Good evening, Mr. Crawford. How are you?
Good evening. I'm here dealing with some outage in and out.
Yep, power outage indeed. Welcome back to the PPP. Dark days indeed. GPL, lots of corruption we heard going back on there because when for 23 years the PPP destroyed Guyana with GPL, massive corruption at every level, favoritism, contracts to their friends and cronies. It's like a milking cow for them at GPL. They cannot manage that entity. Aubrey Norton all of them should go down in front of GPL. Just like what Chetty Jagan did many years ago. Chetty, equipment damage, he took his stuff and he lied down right there in front of GPL. And he did that when his father was president of the country. Aubrey Norton, these guys need to start marching from Bamba, Mali, and walk straight in front of GPL to protest. Move away from Bamba, Mali for a little while. What's happening, Mr. Crawford, with all these blackouts? What's going on the quarantine, sir?
Well, we don't know, but it's a normal thing now, and a lot of people are having their equipments damaged, and sometimes 3-4 times a day. It's been going on for the last month and a half. It's just back to the same old story, like you said, back in the days.
Same old story again. What are some of the sentiments of folks being expressed there on the quarantine? Blackbush, Pola, Alnis, Philippi, throughout quarantine, Port Morant, Wim. What are you hearing? Because out here we are hearing that people are disgusted with the PPP. They want the PPP out. Massive corruption. That's what I am hearing. But what you're on the ground, and I respect people who have boots on the ground, not boots in their air-conditioned offices, or boots in some other office being away from Guyana for a donkey years. Sometimes reality on the ground is different. And I'm not knocking those who have been out of Guyana for 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years. I'm not knocking them at all. But reality on the ground is different. I say that because when I was on the ground, the reality is totally different from not being on the ground. But what's happening on the ground, sir?
Yes, the people are, upset with the way the country, is functioning, but it's an opportunity that is being lost by the current coalition opposition people. We are not seeing where people are meeting the ordinary folks on the ground to get them informed, get a sense of first-hand information of how the struggle is with the families. The main opportunity is to grow the party's membership. And I hate to sound like a broken record. I've been saying this over and over. Once the PPP was installed, we should have assembled a team where we should have started to mobilize and reach out to all the Guyanese people and try to increase the membership. Don't wait until an election date is set, then try to run and bring people in. We are not seeing this sense of urgency. We are not seeing an improved behavior from past so we can learn from our mistakes. And when you point these things out, many of those who were given an opportunity to be leaders gets annoyed and they think they know it all. If you don't go out there and grow the membership, no one could guarantee a win for the next time you go to the polls. There is this misconception that the coalition will win the next election, whenever that be, hands down. Old people got a saying, don't look a gifted horse in his mouth. And that is what they're hoping with the hardship that this nation is facing, the people will automatically vote for the coalition. You and I both, and many listeners, know that that's not true. But for some strange reason, leaders of the coalition feel that way. I don't. And This is a race for our future as a country, as a people. We should not be taking this lightly. It's a daily grind, but the ones on top refuse to adhere to the common citizen. Some grumbling about not being in position but want to have a say. It's every Guyanese right to open their mouths about their future. No political entity or person should tell me that I must not voice my displeasure or give credit when credit is due, because it affects me one way or the other, and so as many other citizens. And once you have leadership that do not want to listen to the people, you're not going to have the total commitment. And, some will be fooled all the way up until an election results is read out. And then they'll say, oh, you know what? Next election again. And that's the stupidity that we are seeing now. We are at a crossroads here where our country could be improved to, a first world status. It wouldn't take that much because we are just 750,000 people. But we are not seeing the proper leadership who wants to be inclusive, who wants to be transparent, who wants to listen. No politician knows it all. And someone mentioned about the struggles of Abraham Lincoln. And those are lessons that our politician needs to learn from. But again, some of us knows it all.
Well, the struggle
So
of Abraham Lincoln wasn't really a struggle. He was a rich man, but the fact that he ran for office 7 times before he actually got through. And some people in Guyana feel as though once and that's it, and they give up, they throw in the towel. We see a lot of them forget about the PPP and those other small minions political parties, but we're talking about the coalition and the PNC especially, that you see a lot of people during the internal politics or elections of the PNC. You see all these people who claim that they mean well and they love their party and they this and they that. They run out and they hug and they kiss babies and they help the people sell little plantain chips at Border Market and Stabrook Market and think they walk around Linden Market and oh, wow, they love the people. And then as soon as the elections are over, not the national general elections, party elections, 95% of them disappear. They're gone. I don't know if they're under the stalls or under wherever they're under, but we don't see them again. These are the individuals who need to be consistent. And I suppose that you're talking about Abraham Lincoln because he never gave up. 7 times he ran for office before he finally got through. In Chicago, you had young Obama. Obama ran for a state senate, I believe, position or one of those positions there in Chicago. He lost. He didn't give up. Bill Clinton lost a couple of times. He never gave up. But these guys in Guyana, they have party elections, they lose, and then they disappear. And next elections, they come by to tell you how much they love you, and they want to stretch their hands out, and you must shake their hands. I wouldn't be shaking a lot of their hands. I wouldn't be giving them no babies that babies that are close to me to kiss. I don't want them to kiss my babies or shake my hands or kiss anything for me, nothing at all, because they haven't proven themselves. If you care about the people, if you love politics, if you care about your party, you've got to be consistent in any struggle. And most of them are not consistent. Maybe this is why the PPP is taking advantage of the situation.
Look, yesterday there were monies being given to farmers in Region 3. Yet again, the public servants have been ignored over and over. But we're not seeing where the coalition is coming out and making a statement about leaving out the public servants. And we're not even seeing a coalition press conference, let's say on a monthly basis. So, you start to begin to wonder, are each one of the coalition members doing their own thing? Why aren't they functioning as a coalition? That is what the world wants to see. But again, when you force these things to the light, you're having some little minions who get upset that you're speaking out of the coalition or you're not really with the coalition. I don't understand, since constructive criticism, it's a bad thing. You're trying to bring sense to the effort, to mobilize, to grow our party, to show unity. Yet the ones that are in there now are having an attitude problem, and not to say in a bad way. I've never seen a set of people carry so much grudge. If they carry an effort to grow the party as much as they carry grudge, yes, the coalition will win by a landslide. But they have an attitude like little children, spoiled children. And if you carry those kind of attitude, you're not supposed to be leaders for the people. If you're going to represent the people's interests, you must able to lend an ear. You must be willing to speak to the small person, to the poor person, not to run around with ones who are already established. They will be able to finance themselves on a daily basis. But what happens to the poor people? And we are not seeing an effort to have more ethnic groups come into the fold. And that is something that needs to be done. In this day and age, you don't go with one color or one group. You have to build a structure of all the Guyanese people to be under the same umbrella. And Mr. Granger was able to do it. We are not seeing that same effort with this current leadership.
All right. We have been talking over the past 2 or 3 weeks about the whereabouts of the General Secretary. General Secretary for parties such as, these folks who have General Secretaries and so forth. It's kind of like old-fashioned socialist communists, but they have a General Secretary by the name of Geeta Chandan that has been missing in action for a while. We've been hearing that she's out on extended leave, absence. She's all manner. We're not hearing her. The General Secretary is kind of like the heartbeat of any political party. That has to be visible. That has to be out there in every community across the country, trying to get new members, trying to mobilize people. That is the job, the functions of the General Secretary. But this General Secretary, Geeta, is apparently sleeping, and it is apparent that her focus is not into what she is supposed to be doing. It is no longer her interest, and therefore the leader or the leadership of the PNC need to make a decision as to whether to sack Geeta, who's a friend of mine, but this is politics. She's not doing much, is really not functioning, and should go, either be fired or resign. Simple as that. Put somebody else who's not just eager to be in a position, but who has what it takes to work as a General Secretary. There may be persons right there within the folds of the PNC or someone outside in the slips who can function as well as they ought to be functioning as General Secretary of the People's National Congress Reform. So the leadership, Aubrey Norton and others, need to make a decision as quickly as possible. Mr. Crawford, your take, please, on this, the absence of the General Secretary.
Look, Mark, the little I know of Ms. Chandan, I haven't heard anything much negative. But in this case, it was the wrong choice by Aubrey Norton. She may be a good party person, but this particular position was not something that she should have been placed in. It's an unfortunate decision, And they, like you said, and we all know, the general secretary is the engine of the party. And it must be someone who can reach out and reach across the divide and able to go into the different neighborhoods and, spread the message, educate the prospective members of the party. And unfortunately, we didn't see that from this general secretary. Maybe a different position would be in the party's best interest for her. But there are a few people right now that would be a good fit, regardless of Norton style or not, to build a party. And that was the first mistake of Aubrey Norton's leadership role, by not putting the right general secretary in place. And when you look back, 9 months have gone by, and I would challenge any of the current PNC people to show me, or anybody else, the evidence of new membership if the party has grown by 100 or if it had regressed. And, these are the decisions. You may not be buddy with a person, but if that person would be able to grow and increase the possibility of you gaining off.
Let me show you this, JR. This is the nonsense that we find. There's a Sean Henry, whoever Sean Henry is. Give the lady a chance, she will do well. You see, this is the nonsense. 9 months almost, and she can't prove herself as general secretary. This is not to say she may not be competent in other areas. Let's give her a chance.
That's the problem.
And this is an appointment by Aubrey Norton, not David Granger. So come on, guys, if you're following the politics, get your facts straight.
No. What had happened?
Say that Granger hasn't made mistakes. Mr. Granger made mistakes. But what we have to be fair enough by saying is that a lot of them who were supposed to be propping him up, he was surrounded by, a lot of them failed him as well. Failed him for a variety of reasons. They have failed him also. So let's continue. Go ahead, sir.
We saw there from that comment. That's the problem here. Instead of the supporters of the coalition take time to understand a statement before making wild comments, they don't think things through. I just said this position. I never said she was not a fit for the party, but they hear what they want to hear, and that's it. And that's where our problem comes. We're very eager to disagree without understanding the facts. And everybody knows Gita may be a good choice for treasurer or any other position. The general secretary position is not an easy position. And it has to be a full-time position, because in
the first place, Mr. Crawford, Gita was not ready for this position. Again, I say Gita is a friend of mine. We have been in the struggle during the PPP time, and she was a magistrate. The PPP wanted her to jail me. The PPP wanted her to jail Lincoln Lewis. The PPP wanted her to jail Norris Witter, and I'm sure others. But when she did that case concerning Sam Hines' son over some gun pulling or something like that at Palm Court, because Palm Court is notorious for those things, and so the then Prime Minister's son, Sam Hines, appeared in front of Ms. Gita Chandan Edmond when she was the magistrate at Georgetown District. They quickly removed her from that. But her punishment started because they suspected that she wasn't going to do their dirty work. And in fact, she wasn't doing their dirty work by sending me or Lincoln or Norris to jail. And so that is how the PVP target. That is how they target magistrates who do not do their dirty work for them. And so Gita wasn't prepared to do their dirty work. I don't know of Gita's politics, but Gita has always stood up for what I believe to be fairness. And so out of with constructively criticizing the position that she holds right now has nothing personal to do with anything against Geeta. I just feel that the time has come that Geeta, who again I reiterate happens to be a good friend of mine, she's just not up to the task as a general secretary, and maybe the time has come for her to submit her resignation and put someone else who's up to that task. That's all I'm saying. There's nothing personal. So some of you guys don't get carried away. She's just not up to the task. I think the leadership knows that, and the leadership should stop pussyfooting around and act immediately on this matter. So that's all I wish to say on this. But that is how the PPP operates. They target magistrates. They did the same to a magistrate by the name of Don Cush, I believe, Holder. They went after her and they had a meeting with her. She admitted this publicly as to how when I appear in front of her, how she could send me to Camp Street. So the evidence are all clear. She was here. She spoke about that. I believe it was, and I'm just giving them a little bit of a truth about how these vagabonds in the PPP operate. These criminals, they're criminals. They are criminals, racist. A businessman or several so-called businessmen approached a sitting commissioner of police and asked, how can we get rid of Ben Sharp? I'm just saying that to say that the evidence is overwhelming about these corrupt bastards who are in office. But then again, sometimes I get a little too emotional when I think about them. But I just wanted to make that clear that this is nothing personal against Geeta. I think Geeta is a competent person. When the coalition gets back into office, and the PNC leadership can't think that they will do this alone. They can beat the PPP with a coalition, a competent coalition. And I do believe that Geeta, if she's still around in politics, or if she's still with the PNC or coalition, she can make a good and a competent minister of that coalition government next elections. But she's just got to go as general secretary. She's not up to the task. Some sort of distraction. She's not up to the task. But what else can we talk about? I've noticed somebody say to ask JR, why is it that JR doesn't put boots on the ground? And now let me say before, I know how you are, you're going to start come through your window and ready for views out. But let me say this, that JR does more on the current team in terms of activism than almost all of the members of parliament who are being paid monthly, who have received and are receiving concessions, duty-free concessions and so forth. When JR has to cross the bridge, you got to pay money. When all the MPs have to cross the bridge or any bridge across Guyana, guess what? They don't pay, but JR got to pay. But yet JR, day and night, is on the ground doing activism work, free of charge. Mr. Crawford, why don't you have boots on the ground, jump in your vehicle?
I do not allow myself to be bothered by, certain comments. Yes, I'll attack some people if I have to let them know that there's a full stop. You see, that's the problem. Everybody's looking for somebody to hand them democracy on a platter. If everybody does their little, it's going to make a whole. And then the country benefits. They don't want, to put out an effort out there. They don't support. Some don't even give you thanks for what you have done. And the very people many of them who are complaining about the behavior of the current administration, just you got tooth in the cup knock, they leave their home and they run off, so they got to go and sport. They don't weigh the pros and cons or stand for something that will benefit them in the long run. If you look at the cricket carnival and all this great stuff recently, many of them are running out there spending monies that they don't have. They're not receiving any benefits from the current administration. They don't have a way of putting back that, but they're still doing, making stupid decisions and then complaining about the hardship. if you want to make a difference, you have to make hard choices. Some things you have to do without until things change. But we don't see that from all of the folks that are complaining. So I would not even subject myself to justify anything else. If I want to go out on the ground and I can afford to go out there, I will go out. I don't get any monies from anybody to do anything. I do what I do because of the poor people that I see suffering, and this doesn't exclude the PPP supporters. I look at all Guyanese as our responsibility as individuals. I don't have to be running around on the streets when there are others who can go out there.
Those who are being paid to represent the people, you're not being paid. You're doing what you love doing, and I know for a fact you're doing a heck of a lot in Region 6 on the current team. And those who want to see ordinary people do a job that others are being 30-something of them are being paid for. The opposition leader has a budget of about 28 or 30-something million dollars. He can gather people to go out there, not just at press conferences and so forth. And you see, oftentimes when we sit and we constructively critique and forget about the PPP, they're a waste of time. All right, they need to be out of office. If we can get them out of office through elections, by the way, through elections, right, by tomorrow, so that we can no longer have an apartheid Guyana, it will be beneficial for all Guyanese, including the PPP supporters who are punishing as well, but who are afraid to speak out. They are speaking out quietly, but I don't just want them to speak out quietly. Let them speak out on elections day via their votes. Let them vote against the PPP. But the leadership of the PNC or the coalition can't believe that, oh, they're going to win an elections just like that. There are ways that you can win an elections, but how it's going right now, they can't win an elections just like that. And I hope Mr. Aubrey Norton gets it. You can't win an election just like that, when the appearance is that you have a fractured coalition. As you have said earlier, Mr. Crawford, you hardly hear from Ramjatan. We hardly hear from the others who are ministers of the AFC. You don't see these guys. But I'm sure we're the coalition to get back into office next elections, and I do hope they do, even with some of the flat-foot hustlers inside, but I do hope they do. You're going to see how many of them are going to jump out from the slips. They're going to be given positions and all manner of things. That's when we're going to see them again. And that will be a day, of course, with change of government next elections, that these vagabonds are out of office and we will no longer have an apartheid Guyana. But I've noticed Mr. Conrad August said something here. He wants to talk about Ipadaji subvention being revoked. Well, the subvention, based on what I've read, hasn't been revoked. It's been reduced. And so that's the form of racism. Another piece of evidence as to how racist the PPPC is. And now the folks at Ipadaji, they shouldn't have, and this is my understanding of a struggle, they shouldn't have Conrad August and others making these comments. Of course, Conrad is a fighter. Others are fighters, right? But the folks at Ipadaji should have been in front of office of the president to register their disgust about this particular matter. They got to be out there. They got to fight their battles as well. I didn't know that there was a subvention and they were receiving monies. I didn't know that of Ipadaji. But regardless of what, no regime should be, you're right, right, you got me there. But this is so wrong. It is blatantly racist to target a company. If you're going to target Ipadaji, then target the Hindu organization, of which a sitting minister is the president of the Dharmic Sabha, I believe. What about the CIOG? They all receive concessions. All of them receive concessions. There are Indian groups in Guyana. The IAC, the Indian Arrival Committee, that had an office at the office of the president. Nobody was talking about these sort of things. But now suddenly they want to dictate what Ipadaji should do and how Ipadaji should spend their monies. But Ipadaji, the members of Ipadaji, are quiet. Conrad, drink a beer and relax yourself. Let these people fight their battle as well. Let them come out so that we all support them. Yes, Ipadaji, it is wrong, but it's time they come out and fight as well. Mr. Crawford, how wrong is this as what the PPP is doing with the subvention for Ipadaji?
Well, you said it all there. Now, one way we could have stemmed it on stop that behavior was to show proper unity, and as a nation and an opposition team, we should have been able to have actions towards getting these things back to where it was. But again, we are not seeing the unity within the coalition. And that is where Aubrey is lacking. He's not been able to unite the party and to show a force. If you have a united front and you start to listen to people and you see a Norman Brown complaining, once you have a united front and you have a proper message out there and the supporters are educated to the point where they understand the importance of certain actions, you will force the hand of this current administration to, to do things, better. But we're not seeing that unity, that ability to be a strong opposition. And, like I said, that is where we're dropping the ball. We're losing so many opportunities because we're actually looking at a tribal politics on the coalition end, and you're looking at a caste system politics on the PPP. And right through that, the general population is suffering because of this type of behavior. And this is what we have to guard against as a nation. You're getting crumbs. When you look at it, the little that some of us are getting as handouts are going right back out because of the cost of living and all these things. So at the end of the day, we are not really winning. We as a nation are being used as pawns for the selective few. And again, as Guyanese, we have to put our ethnic and religious and economic differences aside and come together for our betterment so the country itself will become better. And the leaders need to stop walking around with chip on their shoulders and remember that they are elected by the people for the people and not the other way around. You can't get annoyed when somebody go out on social media and voice their opinion of something not going right, or somebody reach you on the street. It is a way for you to become stronger.
They're a bunch of soft babies. They're too sensitive, and that is not for politics. But Mr. Crawford, lots of other things happening, and we are here to basically talk about the things that people are talking about, and some people just don't want to say it out publicly. And this is what we're seeing, that the opposition has some very, very lazy members of parliament, and they either need to ship out, they need to be sent packing, get out of there. But the question is, we have a list system. Who else on that list? You may put some others on the list, might be 10 times worse than these individuals who are so lazy and not doing what they're supposed to be doing. So the list system, that's another topic for another time. But let's go to school, not IFLAT. Let's go to school right now. Oil-rich Guyana, supposedly billions of dollars of contracts to their friends and their cronies. You get individuals who pose as businessmen, driving around with police escorts and all manner of things. And look at the classrooms. Look at this classroom. Is Priya listening, or she's out probably making money? Look at the condition of this classroom. Will Priya Manikchand send any relative of hers to this school or Irfan Ali? I mean, if I walk into a classroom like this, trust me, it has to change. We have to do something to change it. Because when a child walks into a classroom like this this horrible condition. It doesn't prepare that child's mind to learn properly. I know back in our days, Mr. Crawford, over 100 and something years ago, Honest Primary, Winifred Gaskin Memorial, and Multi and so forth, where you attended. But speaking of Honest Primary and so forth, even back in those days, 150 something years ago, our schools were never like this, in this condition. It was well kept. This is 2022, billions of dollars in oil, revenues, and all manner of things. But they're taking the monies, dishing it out to their friends and cronies, handing out handouts and this out. And, but look, the schools. Look at the schools. Look at what is happening. Shame and disgrace to these vagabonds who are in office today. Taken what's happening. This school. Let's go to the, where is it? Look at the tent. Another school. Can you guys believe this is a school? And those who are distributing these tents have a contract, and the contract is going to cost millions upon millions of dollars for these tents to be placed in a schoolyard in Barima Waini district, so that these kids, and you can tell, look at what the ground is, sand. So the kids gonna go, they're gonna sit down, and then you're gonna ask them, who is the president of Guyana? Who is the prime minister? They don't, well, people won't even know who is the prime minister of Guyana. I myself can't even remember who it is. But look at this. Look at the condition. Please, guys, look at it. That is why it's important to get these vagabonds out of office. Mr. Crawford, your take. Look at the schools.
Look, the current administration can do as they please because, again, we don't have unity. For instance, with the schools, the parents, you see, if the population communicate and they interact for the betterment of their younger ones, parents should come together and demand that the standards be raised for their children. You have to set things in motion. If you don't give the government a pushback, they're not going to do anything better. And it comes because as a nation, we are divided, and we feel, I would know the racial tension is growing more and more. But if we come together as a nation and demand better for our children, because they are the future of this country, we can't have these set up for our children, run around in sand all day and, with disease and everything floating around. You can't sanitize that thing properly. But as a nation, we seem to only care for our own, and that's it. And we don't care what happens to the neighbors or the less fortunate. And this is the product of being under the PPP. It becomes a hustle life. Everything is a hustle. And we are not concerned about the general package. It's just about us. And, it's sad to see how the schools are operated today as compared to our time. And also you have to take in consideration people who are in position to control certain aspects must be people that has a caring nature, not somebody who is there for the money and don't care what happened to the younger ones. Because who's to say where the next president is going to come from, what school? So we have to treat every single student.
It could very well come from here, because if iFlat has one that has been installed, and these kids sitting there, the school in the back road, I think somewhere there in West Rumvelt, a school that I may have visited in the past, maybe the next legitimate president is sitting right there. Right there, right. Or legitimate and competent prime minister, or legitimate and competent vice president right there, or diplomats right there. But this is how they're treating these kids. Billions of dollars in our budget, and this is how these kids are seated. And the parents sending their kids to school, I would protest. Well, I would protest. Right here, right there. It has to stop. And we cannot just say because our kids are not going to school in this condition, in these conditions, meaning that we should turn the blind eye. Oh, these kids, let a parent. We also have to protest. We also, that is why whoever the shadow minister is for the PNC or coalition should be up in arms and protest with a placard in front of this school, in front of Priya's office. It is unacceptable, not just at this school on the back road, but this school, this tent and mud, unacceptable, Mr. Crawford. But as we seek to close off in tonight's program, I saw there was a comment, and people are talking about carnival and so forth. Yes, the carnival is there. So when you call a protest, nobody wants to go out. People want everybody to bell the cat, but we expect our elected officials to bell the damn cat for us. Let them bell the cat. Don't just go at Bamba Mali and bell the cat there at Bamba Mali. Come out on the streets and bell the cat there as well. But whenever they have carnival and all these sort of things, and this is not to say that people shouldn't wind up and jump up, because I don't know when last I've done it, but I don't mind my little soca thing and a little nice old school reggae with a nice Guinness in my hand. Yes, there's time and place for everything. But the people seem to be in the more jump up kind of mood than anything else. And this is what the PVP likes, the jump up mood. This is what they like. Soon as this comes on, sir, it takes away all, it distracts us as a people. Here's the distraction, JR, before we close off. And it takes away all of our problems, all of our stress. And that's what the PVP does. So they bring all these big time shows in, big time people in, and they spend all of our tax paying dollars on these sort of things. And it eases our pressure and everything away. And so we just rub our body and your body, and oh gosh, and everything rub and jump up and ball up and stink and dirty up. That's what it is all about. And meanwhile, you have a Bascom matter that is not being tended to properly. Bascom's life is still in danger. That is Police Detective Bascom. And then you have this guy suing Bascom for about $25 million. You got this guy yet not picked up for questioning. You got him posing with the acting commissioner of police. You got the DPP acting up. You get this guy acting up. You get this general secretary missing in action. You get the prisoners asking, where is the lawyer? The lawyer is right there. You got the acting chancellor is yet to make a decision. All manner of things. You get this one here. You get a new word he learned. It's called nimble. You get this other one posing up with police. You get the tent here at school. You get the schools crammed up. You get this man here, a poor guy with little amount of cocaine or marijuana, got sentenced to 2 months. 2 months he got, and look how they shackled him, Then you get this guy wanted for murder. I've noticed the police force changing up now. They're no longer saying Negro, they're saying African descent. So I'll give the police a little kudos for that. Having said all of that, Mr. Crawford, we really have to go. Briefly, your closing remarks, sir.
What I would like to see is the opposition, they start to act as a coalition and not as individual political parties. And the focus, as school has now been reopened, we need to, if we can't have this current administration making things better for our students, then we need to reach out to the World Health Organization and other international agencies to have, an effort made for our children to be in the better surroundings. They are our pride or joy. If they come home with illnesses, then we have to find monies for these kids in the hospital, and we have already have a broken medical system. The coalition needs to
Yep, JR is having some problems at his end.
Yeah, we just had a brief outage again.
Yeah,
Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah,
They
go ahead.
they need to be more mature.
All right, so we've got to go, though. We'll just take that as a cue that Mr. Crawford is having some GPL issues out there on the quarantine. Typical
Yeah.
of when the PPP is in office. So, but if you be very brief so that we can not experience more blackouts, sir. Go and light your candle when you're done and turn your lights off. It looks as though you don't have a candle, but go ahead, sir.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that those that are elected, that they will, get off their high horses and take the people of the country at heart. Go out there and work for every single Guyanese, regardless who they support, and try to educate the citizens on the reason why you should support the coalition as compared to the installed PPP, and the benefits down the road. And we must be much more understanding as a nation when it comes to our well-being as a country. We cannot just be, self-centered and, don't care what happens to the neighbor or somebody else in the other street. And, we have to see a change of attitude. We are still in the primitive behavior. You're seeing, like I said, tribal politics behavior in the coalition, and you're seeing a caste system, which is also a suppressive form of politics in the PPP. These, as citizens, we must not accept. We're all in it together. We're all, suffering.
Right.
And the coalition needs to hit the markets, and they'll see and hear from the housewives how tough and how stressful it is to provide meals for the family at home.
Absolutely. Well said. Well said, Mr. Crawford. Appreciate your time as always. Give my regards to your other half, and God's richest blessings. And for those of you who think that JR doesn't do his thing every single day, that's what he does on the quarantine. And he is unbought and unbossed. Thank you so much for your service there, JR. I just wish even 5 of the opposition members of parliament can follow your footsteps in terms of activism and what you do there on the ground. Free. You do not get paid 300,000+ every month for that, which is what most or all of the MPs are getting. And there's no reason, not because they're getting whatever money, they deserve their salaries, don't get me wrong, but they also have to get out there and work. A lot of those MPs, I want to say this to you guys, 95% of those MPs have another job, And if they can take their other job seriously, if they can pay so much keen attention to their other jobs and respect their other jobs, that they're not getting paid close to what they're being paid for as a member of parliament. Just imagine how things would have been if they spent most of their time doing what they are paid to do, to represent the interest of the people of that country. It is not a part-time job being an MP, that on your day off from your other job, you go to the market, you buy 2 plantains, 2 cassava, 2 pulori, and some dog food, and you take pictures and you say you love the people and you love this and you love that. Give me a goddamn break. I love you guys. God bless you. Take care, JR.
Good night.
Yeah, all the best. And we'll be back tomorrow, same place, same time. Don't forget, corruption is rampant in Guyana. The Sioux situation, they're still quiet about it. The Detective Sergeant Bascom situation, they're still quiet about it. Obviously, we know why. God bless you. See you tomorrow, same place, same time.
Source. Maybe the Chinese company that did not get the agreement that they wanted here, maybe they're the ones who told you, or it could be just a fictitious thing.
Okay, well, let's talk about specific individuals. What is your relationship with Mr. Sujaro?
So my
You already know what I want. Let me go. Give me Palori, I want Palori. Yeah. Give me Palori, I want Palori. Yeah. Give me Palori, I want Palori. Yeah. Give me Palori, I want Palori.
Mr. Watts, he is armed himself shots. Not watch it, tear gas. Light rounds. Also, I can see that.
Just for Quentin! The man is a boxer, man. I like to put in the boxer, man, to do that. But since my cousin there, you know you come on the East Coast. You listen to me. Right? You know you come to the East Coast. You listen to me. You gotta listen to me too, man. I am listening to you. Now, I see you on the East Coast. The day when they get a protest of them, the next day, that's when you see one bigger heads come up to talk to my family. Right?
So, this is attorney Shellen Washington, owner and founder of the Washington law firm located at 455 Utica Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. We're specialized in medical malpractice, personal injuries, matrimonial law, and landlord and tenant. If you're in need of legal representation, please give us a call today. The number to call is 718-877-3100. Consultation is free at no cost to you. So call us today to see if we can be of any assistance to your legal needs. Again, the phone number to call us is 718-877-3100.